using it to guide your discussion. I'm hoping we'll create user-friendly interfaces so that when I speak in Telugu, you can hear in Hindi. And when you speak in English, I can hear in my preferred language. And I think we are there. We can get there very quickly. And it's being done already. There are two startups in India called Sarvam and Bharat Gen. Both are trying to do it. My request is that we create a quantitative, measurable metrics that we have achieved this goal. What that means to me is, it's not enough, already, people will say, we already have multilingual intelligence, we have systems that will speak, and you can speak in one language, but it's not usable. It is not, especially if you're a person in a village and you don't even know where to begin. So the first issue is, how do we create a multilingual AGI, and how do we make sure that we have measurable progress? There's a statement, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. We need to improve the existing models, and they will probably need more computation, more memory, and more bandwidth. 50 years ago, we created a thing called 3M computers, MIP, megabyte, and megapixel. Today, we should create a 3T computers, a terabyte of process memory, and teraflop of computational power, and terabit bandwidth. That's where we should aim for. That means every one of us should have in our pocket an AI companion that actually has what we call foundation edge models. And they require not, right now, the many models that are on the edge are like 3 billion bytes or 9 billion bytes. We're off by a factor of 100. And we need to get there. And India can, where am I? How am I doing for time? Anyway, it used to be that there'll be a time thing here, but whenever it is time, tell me, I'll stop. Okay. So that's one. The second important point I want to make is people at the bottom of the pyramid. Most of the talks I've heard, most of the expectations assume you are AI enabled and you can actually make effective use of AI. I come from a little village. I guarantee you not one of them knows anything about computers or AI, and they simply are not going to benefit from this whole technology. So what we need to do is, just like the agricultural revolution of Swaminathan, we need to figure out a way how to get this technology to the people at the bottom of the pyramid. Again, I'm sure you'll find, I'd be happy to talk about any of these for much longer, but we only have a short time. Then in order to do both of these things, I said we need a teraflop, terabyte systems. And what we need are personal sovereign edge models. And currently, if you talk to anyone, they'll say, already we can have access to AI. It is not private. It is not, personal and secure. We need systems because they're always going to the cloud to access the AI models. As soon as you do that, you have no privacy. In the future, we want systems which are personal, autonomic, cognitive assistants that are always on, always working, always learning. And that is the challenge of how to get there without, we have to cut it off from the grid. We cannot let it go to the grid because then it's no longer private. And so anyway, there's a whole set of issues of that kind. How much time do we have? Anyway, somebody tell me. There are 3 or 4 other topics we can talk about. One is, I had a child come and say, if AI is going to teach me and knows everything, why should I go to school? Yeah. And so the answer to that will take longer than 2 minutes, but I only have 2 minutes. But you can figure it out. But basically what we need to do is essentially teach the kid learning to learn using AI, have a dialogue. Learning to think, you have to teach them critical thinking. Right now, most kids in India don't even open their mouth in classrooms. They're afraid. So we need to kind of get over that barrier, or let them talk and think and go through critical thinking and learning to do. You have to learn how to execute. With that, I'm going to stop, but I want to leave you with one other thing which you can figure out. One of the things I remember from Vedas is Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Peace at all costs. And if you listen to one of our keynote speakers, they said, AI-based autonomous weapons are going to destroy the world or something. That's a risk. Why don't we have humane weapons? Even a missile is going to hit a hospital or a school, it is easy with AI to discover that and deflect the missile. Why should we even kill the soldiers? They're innocent. They're just somebody recruited. And they're being bombed and killed. We should build weapons, humane weapons, that will disable them rather than destroy them. There are lots of very interesting issues of this kind we need to talk about. Thank you.
Namaskar. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Our next session is a panel discussion on AI for science. The panel will be moderated by Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, and he's also the chair for the AI for Science Working Group. I would now request the panelists to please come on the dais. Professor Karandikar. The other panelists for the session are Mr. Irakli Berids, Head of Center of AI and Robotics, UNICRI, Professor Antoine Petit, CEO and Chairman, CNRS France. We have Ms. Joelle Pino, Chief AI Officer, and we also have Mr. Amit Sheth, Founder, Indian AI Research Organization. A very warm welcome again to the panelists. Group photograph? Okay, I request all on the dais to please come forward for a group photograph. We'll have the photograph for you on your mementos. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Professor Karandikar. I now hand it over to our moderator, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, to carry forward the panel discussion. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ekta. So, distinguished panelists, we have a very distinguished panelist today on the panel, colleagues and all the members of the global scientific community. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this panel on AI for science, and we consider it to be a very core pillar of our vision for this India AI Impact Summit. And as today we stand at the threshold of a new research paradigm, our goal is not just to witness the AI revolution, but to steer it towards a more equitable, inclusive, and transparent future. In the today's AI world, we are moving beyond traditional methods where AI-driven models and automated experimentations have a potential to compress the decades of research into months. And the rapid advances of these technologies, however, has not been so far equitably distributed, and that is one challenge. Many regions still face the significant barriers, but still the realm of possibility for using AI for scientific discovery continues to have a lot of excitements. Today we are joined by leaders who represent the entire spectrum of scientific innovations, policymakers, institution builders, and from the governance and national research ecosystem. I look forward to the panelists' insights on, what are the exciting possibilities in AI for science and how we can bridge the digital divide and build a genuinely reciprocal global scientific ecosystem. So with this, I think I will begin with, first a few questions. I will request the panelists to answer. Of course, they are free to elaborate on any other things. And then I think we will open this floor to the audience for the introduction. So let me begin with, Dr. Amit on the far end. So Amit, you have been building, I think, IRO as a national style institution in India. If you can just tell, how can this model help overcome the specific barriers that we have identified in this region, such as inadequate compute and fragmented data sets. And also, I would like you to elaborate how can we ensure that AI research which gets conducted in our Center of Excellence actually can reach the translational stage, addressing the real world challenges. So if you can just, take 5 to 7 minutes on this, and I think you can just
Hello. Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Karandikar. This is a perfect question for me to talk about. This is why I'm here. I moved from USA after 44 years here to address exactly the question you asked. I was on, 2 days ago, I was on another panel, and I asked this question to the audience. How, if I were to be the founder of DeepSeek, had all the funding that he had and has, can I find those 200, 250 engineers, AI engineers and researchers that he had access to build DeepSeek? Out of around 100 people in the audience, 3 people raised their hand saying, yeah, we may. Of those 3, 2 were students. So only one, mature person basically thought that we can have that. And I think that gives an answer of what we need to do. So India is well on its way, to grow many people who know something about the AI. And they will certainly have the ability, the skills necessary. Say, India has been big in IT services, and if whatever IT services need, they will be able to supply the AI skill set that people would have here. That will be adequate. But we have noticed that two members, very important members of IRO's board, are Ajay Chaudhary and Sharad Sharma. And they have extensively talked about or lamented that India has not been a product nation. We have not made any global products. Virtually, hardly, any global brands exist, have been developed in India. And for that, we need more than skills. We need people at high end of expertise. That means our own indigenous research capacity, our own ability to train innovators. A very good model has been we do bachelor's here. Take an example of Arvind Srinivasan. He did IIT Madras. Then you go outside. He did his PhD in Berkeley. I did mine in Ohio State. And then he worked for companies, 3 companies, DeepMind, OpenAI, and Google. And then he did his company, but that also in US. We want that to be done here, right? So the same ecosystem in which he got trained after leaving India, we want to provide that in India, right? So, and there are, I think, a lot of things happening. As you know, there is a 40% decrease in Indians going to United States for studies. So, and that will continue for a while now, right? With most of you know of the reasons. So, first and foremost, IRO is developing an environment to create high-end talent of innovators. Secondly, and by the way, if you see IRO's founders are professors who have graduated nearly 200 top-end PhDs. Right? So we know how to create that. Secondly, we have created broad variety of collaborations with various universities, and we are starting to do that with industry. And we are creating a significant infrastructure to support IP creation, to licensing that, or to work with the corporates and startups to who will make the products. So the idea would be that we'll co-innovate, jointly work at IRO with the companies, or with the startups, with entrepreneur residents, and we have already lined up large amount of investors, angels, seed, as well as growth stage. They are all hungry for deep tech AI startups, and that we will provide comprehensive environment for us to take. Now, some of us also, founders have also done companies. 3 of my 4 companies that I have done are AI companies, licensing the research I did in my university. Ramesh Jain has done more companies than I have, and he's also a co-founder. So we have the understanding of that entire pipeline it takes from lab to global products. And so this is what we are going to do for India. And this, who answered it?
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now let me just switch the gears and go to Professor Antony. He has been the chairman and CEO of CNRS France. Antony, I think CNRS, as you know, operates at a scale that most research organizations can only imagine. So 2 questions. What do you think, what structural shift the National Research and Funding Agency need to make to support the interoperable scientific ecosystem that can sustain AI research beyond just short-term pilots? And so the added question is that, is there a need to build an AI for science platform like as a mega science facility?
So thanks for this invitation. Yes, 2 words about CNRS. CNRS in French means Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique, and probably you don't need an AI translator to understand that it means National Center for Scientific Research. And it's true that we're a big institution. We employ more than 35,000 people, among which 30,000 scientists, and we cover all fields of science. And clearly, AI opened a new era in science, in some sense, because AI is not only an accelerator of existing techniques, it forces us to imagine new ways to do science. Just to illustrate this, if you look at material sciences, what I will see is roughly, before you define a new materials and then you studied the properties of these materials. Now you say, I would like to have a material with such properties, and then thanks to AI, you will build the material with high probability that he will verify these properties. So in some sense, you see it's not at all an acceleration, it's a reverse in some sense of a way to do science. And this opens a new era in which you need really to have talents, of course, but you have also to need cooperations between different sciences. And that's probably a challenge for an old institution, if I may, like CNRS. We were organized classically in science. We cover all sciences, including humanity and social sciences. But you see that with AI, you need really new ways to cooperate between scientists. And this means that, as usual, the key point is talents. And it means that we have to build ways to push people to interact. And that's why we created some years ago a virtual center called AI for Science, Science for AI. And we have to create some kind of a virtual loop between, in some sense, producer of AI, mathematicians, computer scientists, and consumers of AI, which can come from every discipline. But the trick is that this producer will not produce tools or software that will be simply used by consumers, but consumers, we have new, in some sense, new attempts for new ways to do research. And that's clearly something we try to do. And of course, in addition, we need absolutely to have computer facility of the highest level, even if we also try, as a lot of people try to work to have more frugal AI, and in order to not have a carbon footprint which will stop to develop this AI. And so that's clearly a challenge for a center like CNRS, but I know that it is a challenge all over the world. And probably a key point is to really start from scientific use cases in order to, as I said, to rethink the way to do science. So do we need to have a platform for that? I don't know. We clearly need to have cooperations. That's absolutely key. CNRS, we have a long tradition of cooperation with India and with DST in particular. And clearly, from my point of view, the way I feel India approach AI in a very, very pragmatic way can be an example for us. You really try to apply AI for your citizens. And in some sense, for science, I think that the process should be the same. We should start from very pragmatic scientific questions in different fields, and to see, thanks once again to cooperation between data scientists, computer scientists, mathematicians, and colleagues from the other fields, how we can apply AI. But also, and for science, AI for science has also some risk. In particular, you can produce a lot of papers thanks to AI, and it's not clear whether these papers were right or not. And in some sense, we can lose all our time by producing false paper by AI and then referring these papers also by AI. And that's a difficulty we all face. I think that none of us has a solution right today, but it's clearly also an issue. But be optimistic and let us think that AI for science once again will allow us to make progress and to discover also new results, but also new ways to access to these results. And in particular, there are right now fascinating applications of AI to mathematics. A bit frightened in some sense because new results have been obtained in mathematics without the help of any human. Does it mean that AI will replace scientists? I don't think so.
Okay, so do you think AI will replace scientists, or it will act as a co-scientist or a hybrid scientist?
That for me.
Yeah. So let me just introduce, I think, Professor Zuel Pino. So you have an academic background, and as well as you are now a chief AI officer, so you have worked in the industry as well. So just your take.
Happy to share some thoughts and happy to be on this panel to discuss this topic. A few things about my background. I am an academic member at MILA, the Quebec Institute of Artificial Intelligence at McGill University. I also spent a number of years supporting the AI research teams at Meta, the fundamental AI research teams, and most recently, Chief AI Officer at Cohere. This question of, are we going to create an AI scientist, a co-scientist, and so on, I would propose a different framing of that. And I really do see AI as a new scientific instrument. And so if you look back to some number of years, when suddenly we had computation and the ability to produce numerical computation, it completely changed what you could do, not in one field of science, but across all of the sciences. And so what we are seeing today is a change of that magnitude, where we have this new fantastic instrument that is going to change the trajectory, not of one discipline of science, but of the sciences as a whole. Why do I call it an instrument rather than a scientist? Is because what years of being an advisor to early career researchers has taught me is that the hardest thing in science often is asking the right question at the right time in the right way. And so as much as there's been some impressive results in terms of mathematics recently, and as well as other fields, it starts with a question. And we can use AI to ideate around a topic and to explore and do discovery, all of these things, but there's usually an intent that starts the process of science. And at this stage, it's hard to imagine where that intent comes from, though the AI is able to carry more and more of the steps together. So I think, to me, that's the right framing, at least for the next few years. Both the sciences as well as AI is changing rapidly, so we may need to redo this panel on a regular basis, and the model might evolve. But I would say for this period of time, for me, that's really the most productive way to do it. As with any instrument, some instruments are extremely powerful, and some instruments, when used poorly, can pose risk. They can pose risk to the integrity of our scientific knowledge. They can pose risk in terms of carrying false information, and so on and so forth. And so that also gives us a framing for how to think about that without falling prey to unmaterialized fears about this technology, but actually using it from the point of view of how do we make the most of this to accelerate our scientific discovery process, while making it, using it judiciously in light of some of those risks. I'll make this very concrete for you. I'll give you some examples. We've done some projects while I was at Meta on the field of AI chemistry, the ability to use AI to essentially produce new, in this case, new crystals. And when I talked to the research team doing the work, the feedback I got from them, many of which were experts in this field, was that in about 1 year of research, they were able to accomplish the equivalent of what would previously take them 20 years of research. So it's not that the research process completely dissolved. You still needed time, you need some investment, but the acceleration of the discovery process was phenomenal. And the way that this is done, very concretely, usually it involves taking an initial data set, so in this case, a number of existing crystals for which we know the properties, feeding this into a model, a generative model, that then you can use to rank the properties of new crystals. And in this particular case, once you've done the ranking, you take your top ranked candidates and you still need to run them through a wet lab to verify the properties. Your mathematical model has some imperfections, some approximations, some errors. But by having the ability to rank the candidate solutions, you cut down the search times drastically. In the old days, you had to list the list of possible solutions, and you had to test them one by one in the lab using your intuition of the order in which to test them. But now you have a ranking algorithm that tells you in what order to rank them. So for those of you who remember the web PageRank algorithm where, the search tree to find a website of interest was incredibly long, and all of a sudden you had a good ranking algorithm. It was a complete game changer in order to retrieve information. And now it's a complete game changer in terms of finding candidate solutions to problems in AI. And so this process that I described for this one case applies across all sorts of other areas, whether it's biology, whether it's mathematical theorems, and so on and so forth. So this is not like magic. There is like an organization to how you take the data, how you use it in a generative models, how you do the ranking, and then how you verify your solutions. And the verification process changes depending on what the domain is. In some cases, the better your model of the data, and we hear a lot about world models, the ability to predict the properties of the system means that you can accelerate further the discovery, you get better ranking, and you have to take fewer solutions to the lab. And so that's just to give you a sense of how to use it in practice to make this a little bit more concrete for people.
Thank you. Now let me come to Dr. Irakli Paris. Irakli leads the United Nations Inter-Regional Crime and Justice Research Institute Center for AI, where he manages one of the first sort of UN programs dedicated to AI. So, Irakli, what is your take on this risk versus benefits? If you see that in your experience, this AI for science can potentially pose, and what even other speakers had raised.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question, and thanks the organizers for putting this together and inviting me to the panel. It's a really pleasure to share the panel with the distinguished speakers who spoke before me. I'll give some reflections what we are doing and how we're looking at the discoveries of the science, including the social science and other things, how it translates into the policy developments at some of the United Nations streams, and how we are working with that. So I'm leading a Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics for one of the UN agencies called UNICRI, and our mandate is anything related to crime prevention, criminal justice, rule of law, human rights, AI literacy now. The center itself opened in 2017 in The Hague, in the Netherlands, and we have a global mandate supporting law enforcement agencies all over the world to use AI and in a responsible way. We develop specialized toolkits and policy frameworks for that. We also support investigators to use AI to solve concrete crimes, and at the same time, we are assessing risks, how criminals and malicious actors can use artificial intelligence, and how we can support sort of global frameworks to ensure that AI is used in a beneficial way and risks are mitigated properly. So this is the type of framework what we're doing. A couple of questions now, sort of starting from the broad side, from the United Nations. Obviously, UN just approved a scientific advisory board. This is a extremely positive development. And just an hour ago, there was a panel about science related to the AI governance and how it is so crucial to understand, and especially for the policymakers and sort of broader audience, what we are trying to actually govern. And what we are hoping is that the Scientific Advisory Board is going to do just that. And quoting Secretary General of the United Nations, who said that policy should be as smart as the technology it aims to guide, and it is so true. And right now there's quite a lot of sort of misconceptions and misconnects in that sense. Now, a little bit about the law enforcement and how how we are looking at it. There are a number of things, and there is a lot of aspects where it could be touched upon. several years ago, when I started the center itself and we started sort of our programs, especially on the responsible use of AI by law enforcement, most of the law enforcement agencies were not using AI. We're talking about back in 2018, 19, or they didn't even know what were the tools. And we had sort of a really handful of examples here and there. And now, last summer, we conduct regular global meetings, AI for law enforcement, and this one was hosted in Brazil. And we had so many use cases that we didn't know actually sort of what to showcase, right? On the one hand, this is a really good development. So we have law enforcement needs to use AI and it needs to solve problems. And right now, without AI tools, the vast amount of data which exists there, it's cannot be interpreted and cannot be put in place, but at the same time, it has to be done in a responsible way. So what we are doing is that we're developing specialized toolkits for responsible use of AI, and that involves the multi-stakeholder dialogues, and we bring scientists there, we bring law enforcement agencies, governments, and academia to put together those findings and frameworks so that this could be applied directly in the policy translation. So India is one of the pilot countries right now. We have 5 countries where this toolkit is being implemented. And this is India, Kazakhstan, Nigeria, Oman, and Brazil. A couple of days ago, we had a meeting at the Central Bureau of Investigation, and we understood that there's a lot of progress already made in the implementation of this particular project. At the same time, we have launched a rather sort of a scientific project on how to ensure that public trusts use of AI by law enforcement. And in a few weeks, we're going to issue policy recommendations and the report which comes out of it, which is, again, a very crucial form of the governance of AI in that particular field, where AI is being used by law enforcement, but public has a fear to it and has a misunderstanding, perhaps, or right understanding on how it is being used and applied in reality. So all of this stuff is being happening there.
Thank you. Thank you all the panelists. I think before we just open, I just had one quick questions to, not in any order, but just to Dr. Pino, I had this question to you, since you made a very important point of AI to be looked as an instrument. Now, one question I had is that there is this reproducibility crisis in science, So what do you think? Do you need any standard or any methodology so that, AI-generated discoveries are considered, as real or as reliable as,
Yeah, I do appreciate the question. I've been quite concerned about the reproducibility more generally in the field of AI for a number of years, studying it around 2018, and have published quite a few papers specifically on this topic of reproducibility. I'll keep it very, very short. I do think this is an issue. I do think AI can be an instrument to accelerate the reproducibility of scientific findings, because specifically in those cases, the question is already there. Often there's a candidate methodology. And so that means we can apply the wheels of AI in using reasoning methods and generative methods to accelerate reproducibility. We've looked at doing that and running reproducibility challenges. I've run an annual reproducibility challenge around some of the AI conferences, and so I think there's a lot of opportunity there to do that. I would emphasize there's 2 ingredients that are necessary, which often are associated with discussions of responsible use of AI. One of that is transparency. So to facilitate reproducibility, it helps to have the artifacts of the scientific process be publicly available. And the second one is evaluations. And so just to reproduce a method without being very specific about how you're going to specify the criteria can be difficult. So I think by spending some time on transparency and evaluation, we can really facilitate this process.
Okay. Amit,
Yeah, so I think we've gotten great things out, like productivity and other things that a colleague from Cohere mentioned, about using very large models trained on arbitrary data. We plan to bring to India something very unique. From the very beginning, in fact, when I had a chance to talked to the Prime Minister, we said that we need to have India make its mark in a new form of AI. And in this case, I get the chance to perfectly explain what we are doing. We want to solve, instead of using a big model and use it as an instrument or partner, we are developing models that are very specific. We call it compact, custom, neurosymbolic models, such that we solve specific problem deeply. IRO has taken the topics of healthcare, sustainability and environmental science, and pharma as initial domains. And recently in pharma, there's a company called Benevolent AI, and they had a FDA approval of a new drug, rheumatoid arthritis drug, where it was developed by use of knowledge graph and deep learning, right? So
Amit, can you just wind up in?
Yeah. So in our case, we want to create specific model for specific problem solving, and train neurosymbolic means that we can make the models explainable, safe, aligned, grounded, with deeper reasoning options and planning and so on and so forth. And so I think this is an alternative model for AI that is likely to come up and would solve the problems deeply, very specifically, with high value.
Okay. Noni, just quickly, I just wanted to ask you this question, that what do you think that AI for science can act as a bridge to solve problems in some of the priority sectors like climate resilience or agriculture or energy, particularly for countries which have a limited experimental facility?
I have 2 hours, right?
Yes.
No. Clearly, as I said before, AI will play a key role, in particular because by its ability to treat a huge amount of data. I said before that Ceneris were also a consumer of AI. If I look at the domains who produce the most amount of data, it's not at all mathematics, computer science. It's particle physics and astronomy, and they need new techniques based on AI to treat appropriately this data. But coming back to North-South relation, as you said, I'm convinced that we need cooperations. We live at a period where sovereignty becomes a buzzword, but sovereignty does not mean, from my point of view, isolation. We need to collaborate. We need to share. We need to develop open science and open software. And clearly, this is not in opposition with the will of sovereignty. And clearly, to be brief, I think that we need to start from use case, either use case coming from civil society or use case coming from science. And we as developed countries, we do not have. As you know, France has a history with Africa, which is particular, and during a long time, we tried to explain to African people what they need. And now we have understood, at least I hope, that the main point is to understand what are their needs and to try to develop cooperation in order to fill these needs.
So thank you. Actually, you made an important point of the responsible AI. What do you think, that's about the shared global ethics, for the AI, that AI-driven scientific breakthroughs are governed by some kind of a shared ethical framework?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thanks a lot. So there are, many things happening at the moment in the world. On the one hand, we have the global digital divide, where a lot of countries are investing in the technology and advancing, and including in education and scientific breakthroughs. And then you have quite a large portion of the world which is staying either behind or may have a potential to stay behind. For example, right now, only half of the world has either AI or digital strategies, and and have governmental spendings or allocations to that, another half doesn't. So that digital divide is very dangerous, and there are numerous calls how to minimize that. And on the level of the United Nations, there are many type of streams there, but I don't think it's enough, and I think that a lot more has to be done. And hopefully the scientific breakthroughs through the AI and some shared platforms and some shared collaboration that can be bridged, and this could be benefited. And when you see the title of this AI Impact Summit, I cannot share it more or cannot resonate more that welfare of all, happiness for all. AI should certainly benefit all and not selected few. And I think that summits like this and hosting a summit in Global South should give a renewed impetus for doing all of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, since we are running out of time, we just have a time for 2 quick questions. So we can take from here. Just, please go ahead.
So my question is to Dr. Pino and Professor Sheth. I work at the intersection of AI and synthetic biology. Google DeepMind released AlphaFold, which won the Nobel Prize. 10 days ago, they announced AlphaFold 4 for drug discovery, and they have chosen to keep the model private. Right? So it's very interesting that the fundamental model in fundamental science was released in public domain, but the one which has commercial applications in drug discovery, Google has chosen to keep private. My question is, do you see this as a trend where the scientific foundation models, as far as they relate to fundamental science, will be released in open source, but if they are fine-tuned for commercial applications, they will be kept private? Do you see this as a trend, and what do we do about that, Professor Sheth, in India?
Of course, I can't speak to DeepMind's strategy. That belongs to them. I've been in deep disagreement about their open sourcing strategy for many years, respectfully so. I do think that the circulation of scientific assets and ideas is absolutely for the benefit of all. I will say it is possible to go against that trend. I was, in 2023, responsible for a language model called Llama. At the time, all of the industry was against open sourcing large language models. We went against that. We open sourced the Llama 1 model, Llama 2, Llama 3. Today, we're looking at over 3 billion downloads of this family of models. It's possible to see disturbances to those trends. And I think specifically in the field of scientific research, there's so much more to be gained by sharing assets and sharing ideas than keeping it closed. But that takes courage, that takes going against the grain, and it takes vision.
Okay.
I want
just brief, I think.
Yeah, I want to express deep admiration for that effort and trend that you started in making open source model. India has to develop its own model. So we just had a whole day yesterday with the pharma industry. They are our partners. And with the access to information they can provide, guidance they can provide, data they can provide, we will develop our own model for drug discovery. We are ourselves developing a very large pharma knowledge graph. We have already developed a good one, a decent one now. And we will be training our own model with deep pharma drug-related knowledge and create our version.
Thank you. So just one last question we'll have in the end. Just be brief, I think 30 seconds, and then we'll have one of the panelists to answer another 40 seconds.
My question is...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is there any government guidelines for responsible global AI?
You want